Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? NukemDukem here. So I came across this thread and I thought it was a very interesting and well-documented read. And the credit goes to Hotchkiss50, the user that came across of why he believes that the leaked photos of the Guam and Hong Kong operators are real. Now keep in mind that this is unconfirmed. Ubisoft has not said anything. I do not know anything, so it could be real and could be fake coming at that angle. But I want to just present his case why he believes it's real and not a fan-made. So I was going to paraphrase him, but I think it was better directly sourcing it from the creator of why he believes it and his case for it. So he says, "Hey guys, I've done my duty to waste my time because I have nothing else to with my life, and to prove that the leaks regarding the Polish Grom operator is not fake, despite a lot of those claiming it's from the source engine." So I should have said this earlier. My English is not the best. Sometimes I struggle reading. It's a dyslexia. I've been struggling my whole life, and English is not my second language, and I had to grow up learning English, and sometimes it just doesn't do well for me. I've spent about nearly 1,000 hours using a source filmmaker, and like many people, I spent the majority of my life playing the games utilizing the source engine, most notably Garry's Mod, in which I have 1,400 plus hours clocked in from my middle school days. Anyways, on to the analysis. Here are the pictures of the leaked Grom Waifu crossed out operators a few days ago. We are seeing it, so we don't need to paste it again. A lot of skeptical people are claiming that the Grom operator could be fake, custom model created and posed in Garry's Mod or source filmmaker. While there's nothing wrong being skeptical, a lot of those claims were made saying that just because the low graphical fidelity of the second photo, and that looks like something made from the source engine. And here is why it's not, or here's why it isn't. Okay, so I've gone and done my best job to recreate some operators' viewing screens from the R6 in Source Filmmaker with my knowledge of lighting. While it isn't the best, I'm sure you can't do better from the Source engine from 2004. Fuse SFM and Fuse Rainbow Six Siege side-by-side comparison. So this is what he did. So the left is the source filmmaker and the right side is the actual engine. So here is what he created through the source engine, and here is the Rainbow Six one right here. As you can see, the graphics is just not as on par on this Rainbow Six engine. So let's go ahead and see what he says. Excuse me. One important thing to note about the photo is the goggles. And the Rainbow Six engine renders reflection stuff like goggles or anything metal chrome different than the source engine, so there really isn't any way to replicate the way goggles reflect in the engine. Would have to Photoshop the goggle reflection on. Sorry, let me do that again. Okay. There isn't really any way to replicate the way goggles reflect in the engine. Would have the Photoshop the goggles reflection on. So let's go ahead and take a look. You see the reflection here from the Rainbow Six engine. He says right now it's almost impossible to do that in the source engine to have that reflection, or you have to Photoshop that reflection onto the goggles, saying this is a higher engine from the Rainbow Six engine. Another thing to note is the individual shadows on the threads of his Gorka. In Rainbow Six, you can see the cloth of Fuse on his right shoulder giving depth, texture. It looks like cloth. It's something that sort of plastic on the source engine. So this looks more plasticky and this looks more fabric and textured. Okay, now he does Bandit from the source filmmaker and Bandit from the Rainbow Six side-by-side comparison. So here he is. This is the source and this is the Rainbow Six. You can see it looks more plasticky, and this one has a little more detail to it, so it looks a little bit better. Okay, so I effed up the screenshots, Bandit blinking, but I just took it and but whatever. I decided to replicate it in the source filmmaker version 2. Anyways, you can see again stitching on Bandit's right shoulder, and the Rainbow Six screenshot is nowhere to be seen in the source filmmaker version. In the source filmmaker version, the clothing has texture and feel to it of a raincoat. You can see the individual stitching on the mole webbing of his vest as well. I want to point out the models used in the SFM seem a little bit older textures and oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm struggling right now, guys. I'm having a little anxiety. I want to point out that the models I use in the SFM seems to be running older textures probably before Velvet Shell. But here is here's the most important thing I want to bring up. This is one from the source engine rendered skin compared to Rainbow Six. Close up of Bandit face. You can see his face has really soft shadows and just looks more realistic in general. I don't know how the graphical term for it. I just think it's a subsurface scattering. But anyways, it looks much better than the SFM version. Okay, let's take a look. So here's a close-up from the Rainbow Six engine. Okay, let's look at his rendition of the source filmmaker. Okay. Yeah, you can definitely see in the cloth. Yeah, there's just a lot more texture in the Rainbow engine. Face is super flat and there's one-on-one color, and the shadows are hard. In the Rainbow Six version, the shadows are soft. Shadows in the source engine looks either really sharp or really grainy. I don't think there's a way to do super soft like the ones in Rainbow Six. So he says the Rainbow Six shadows are more soft than the source, and he doesn't think it's possible to do that in the source engine based on his 1400 hours experience on it. Now, which brings us close up to the Grom's operator. As you can see, her face displayed a lot of characteristics, something rendered in the Rainbow Six engine rather than from the source engine, and you can see the stitching on her coat as well. So this was leaked a couple days ago by Nitro. So he's saying, look at the cloth. Let me zoom this in for you. You look at the cloth, it has the same stitching and the shadow and the lighting as the source, as the Rainbow Six engine, and not the source GMOD version. So he's saying this looks like the Rainbow Six engine just based off of his history. Alright, let's move back a little bit. You can see the stitching in her coat. Look, okay, let me make this bigger. Look at her eyes glisten as she stares into nothing, glaring to ocean, blue eyes of whose light would never fade. Okay, he's just doing poetry. I don't think even one strand can reflect the light, give her position. Okay, yeah, this is just his like fun little poetry. Anyways, regarding this photo, which has gotten most blame of the source engine look, this is the one where people think it looks too much like Gary's mod. The only thing I can speculate that is a leak is that people have taken the photo who were invited by Ubisoft to test out Season 3, or maybe a developer himself, as to my theory of why the graphical fidelity of the photo looks so low. I think the person who took the photo had his settings lower. Pro players were invited to test out Season 3, so I'm guessing that they like to prefer playing in lower graphics for more FPS and responsiveness. So he says, is most likely the pro players or a developer, and the reason why the graphics looks so crappy is because they play on very low graphics settings to have better frame rates, and since pro players play at a very high frame rate, they prefer lower graphical settings, so that's why the photo looks very grainy and not as good as what the game usually puts out, just for higher FPS. And finally, the last point I have to make is that if someone wanted to fake a leak of R6 Operator to go as far as make a whole new model from scratch, I highly doubt that if they had the ability to make the model with a 3D modeler like Maya or ZBrush, that they would use Source Filmmaker or Gary's Mod of all things to make a render. It just makes no sense, as Maya and Blender has much better and closer render capabilities compared to GMOD or Source Filmmaker. So he says if someone were to like make a whole new model, it has to be either Maya or ZBrush, because it has a lot better source engine to create than the Source Filmmaker or GMOD. But he's saying that he doesn't think it's possible because it takes so much time and so much work to make a whole new model from scratch. That's all I got. Hopefully enough perspective. Now he talked about mainly Grom, but if you type in Hong Kong, did you analyze a Hong Kong leak possibility or possible leak? Nope, but it looks the same. Everything I've said here can be applied to the leak as well. So he's saying the leak of the Hong Kong, which most people think it's fake because it looks similar to Source Filmmaker and Gary's Mod, it looks like the Rainbow Six engine and it can be applied as well. So he thinks that one's a real leak as well. Now, based on his evidence and what he's shown, what do you guys think? Do you now feel, based on his evidence of his work and showing the difference of the Source Filmmaker and the Rainbow Six engine, that it's not fake? Let me know in the comments below. Keep in mind, keep all this with a grain of salt. Until Ubisoft officially announces it, we can always do this as speculation and a possibility. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this coverage. If you enjoyed it, hit that like, the bell, the subscribe, so you guys get notified for all Rainbow Six Siege news, and $100 giveaway in the description, 3 winners. I'll see you guys next time.